Welcome everybody to Zeta Global Radio. Thank you so much for being here today as we do another show to inspire, to uplift, to make you think differently, make you feel like you're part of a collective of humanity. And I'm really excited about this show today as we are titling it From Tragedy to Triumph, because so many of us have had that experience where we have had some big knocks on our doors and they have changed the trajectory of our lives. I know I've had that personally. I've shared that over the years being a host here of things that have happened in my life, and I'm sure they've happened in yours. So we've brought on two beautiful women here today to share their story and to share their experience to inspire you as well. So our first guest is Heather Phillips from Toronto, Canada, or just outside of Toronto. But this incredible Canadian is vice president and co-founder of Muscle Tuners International. She'll explain what that is. She's the current president of Can Ask, and she'll explain what that is as well. She's a property manager. She's an overall business powerhouse, and she's going to share her story with you. So welcome to Zeta Global Radio, Heather Phillips.
Thank you, Lainie. I appreciate being invited to speak on this topic of tragedy to triumph.
Yeah, and you know what? It's fun. No, I was just going to say, you said tragedy and I said trauma, but I think it's the same thing. It's when something has come in. I mean, would you say your story, before we get into it, is a tragedy, or would you say it was a trauma, or how would you explain what we're going to talk about today?
I have never described what happened to me as a tragedy, but a trauma, absolutely. I was too young to understand and think about tragedy. I mean, I used to see those faces on the wall at high school, but, you know, trauma would be more applicable to me, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Well, why don't we did I give enough of who you are now, or do we want to give people just a quick overview of what you do now, and then we are going to take them back in time and bring them forward and connect the dots from where you are now, and what happened then, and what brought you all the way through to where we are, as I would say, is a triumph.
Well, the triumph is the fact that I was a successful business person. I was the chief executive officer for a financial institution. It was a family-run business, and I did that since 2011, and I actually ran 4 companies. So one of the tools that I use is what I decided to say, okay, I actually applied everything that I learned when I was in the throes of the tragedy or trauma, and everything that I learned in that time frame I've applied all the way through my life. And I really believe that what I did on a daily basis and what I did for myself allowed me to be the person I am today, allowed me to keep my head on straight, allowed me to be physically healthy, allowed me to just carry on and continue.
Beautiful. So why don't we do that? Why don't we start back in time and talk about what happened, what has changed the course to what you just explained, has really made you who you are today.
Okay. When I was very young, age 11 actually, I had decided that I wanted to be a phys ed major and have a psychology minor. I wanted to go to university. When I was 11 years old, I had trouble in school. And when I was in grade 9, I had a really hard time in English. So in grade 10, I put myself in a special education program. I actually went to the principal and said, I want help here. And they did. They honored my request and put me in a special education program for English. And there I learned how to do sentences and paragraphs and so on. So that was awesome. When I was in late high school, I was on a trajectory to go to university to get my physical education degree, and I did that. During my first year, and all the way through high school, I ran. I was a runner. I was a gymnast. I was a cheerleader. I was physically active a lot of hours in every single day.
Wow. Yeah.
And got to university and did the same thing. And in January, second term, at the beginning of second term in the first year, I hurt myself. And it was very, very it happened fast. I'm just going to say it happened fast. It didn't seem like anything led up to it, but one day I was in the gym and I went up to do a volleyball smash, and I landed on my knees. I didn't have any strength. I just went right to my knees. I was also coaching gymnastics in around the same time, and I was going from right to left. You know how you spot a gymnast doing a back walkover? I was on my knees on the floor and helping the girls get their legs up over their head. So I was, if you can imagine, tilting from side to side to side to side in a gym, because it was in a mall. So it was like a demonstration. And then all of a sudden I heard clunk, and I was in severe pain, and I got rushed to the hospital. So that was like, oh my God, what happened to me? Really, I didn't know what happened to me. So that was fairly early on in the year, and I was limited to my physical activity, which didn't make me happy. April, I went to see an orthopedic surgeon who suggested that I have surgery. He explained to me that I had a birth defect called spondylolisthesis, which is basically the slipping of vertebrae, and mine happened to be L4, L5. So this is the lumbar region, L4, L5. So he said, you're going to have this surgery, whether it's now or within the next 5 years. And me personally, I didn't ever know when my back was going to slip out of place. When it slipped out of place, I was in pain. And then it would go clunk, and it would go back into place, and I was fine. So the unknown is really scary. And that's what I was confronted with at the age of 19, making a decision to have surgery before the age of 25.
Wow. So first I want to take that in for a little bit. How was that for you? Was that when you received the diagnosis or the understanding that you have this birth defect, were you, because obviously you're a powerhouse now and you're a powerhouse then doing all these things, did you immediately take it in like, I'm going to get this figured out, or did it set you back emotionally, or how did you respond to this this new condition?
Well, I didn't really give it much thought. I had a solution in my head within a minute or two of the doctor saying what my choice was. You have it now or you have it at age 24. And I didn't have any, or 25, and I didn't have any other benchmarks. I didn't know of chiropractic. I didn't know of Touch for Health. I didn't know about energy kinesiology. I didn't know about physical therapy, really. I didn't know about all those other things. So, of course, the surgeon says, you've got this. These are your choices, this time or that time. In my head, I said, okay, I'm going to do it now. I'm young. I'll recover fast. That decision was easy. Like, that is not where the trauma triumph came, the trauma tragedy came from. That part wasn't very, it was easy. It was just like, I'm just going to do it. Just like everything else in my life, I'm just going to do it. The trauma happened after surgery, when I was confronted with 6 months of being in a back brace, and then 3 months of physiotherapy, and having a lot of pain during my physiotherapy, and being held back in university, so I lost my social circle. I lost my ability to be physical. I couldn't be physically active for a full year. And so that's where the trauma came for me. It was emotionally traumatic and it was physically traumatic all at once. And because I was at the tender age of 20, when I was in my recovery phase, I had my surgery just after my 20th birthday, and I was in the hospital for a full month. And the trauma started there because I was expecting to be in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I was in the hospital for a month. And that's where it started. It was in the hospital with expectations not being met.
Got it. So if we could flash forward just in time signature, so from that time through like your 20s, your 30s, etc., did you find it to be at one point the pivotal point of like, wow, I'm on a new trajectory, I'm going to learn more about this? And is that what opened up? I mean, it's clearly that's what opened up this career choice that you are in now, right?
Well, let me tell you. Yeah, well, that whole physiotherapy, I was going to physiotherapy at the university, and I was being very faithful and going when I was supposed to, and the ultrasound would hurt, and the TENS machine would hurt, the ice would hurt, the physical movement would hurt, and when I would walk to school, I had this nagging pain in my right hip. So if you reach around to your back and you have that your bone, you can feel the iliac crest on that's your hip bone. So I was in pain a lot. So I asked the physio, why would I be in so much pain and what could they do for me? And they didn't really know what to do for me. So they referred me to the surgeon where I went to school, not the one who did the surgery, but a different one. And he basically gave me an explanation that wasn't acceptable to me, which was the bone is rubbing over the bone, like they graft your spine. They took bone out of your hip and the muscles were going over it. And I said, that's really great, doc, but they didn't take the bone from my right side. They took it from the left side. He went and checked my file. Sure enough, I was right. So his response was, oh, well, we can open you up and see what's going on again. So he was basically offering me another surgery as my solution. And I just said, whoa, no. So I didn't make it known to him that wasn't an option for me, or maybe I did. I mean, that was a long time ago. But I remember internally absolutely cringing and saying, if I can't do that again, I won't do that again. There must be a better way.
When we come back on the next segment, let's continue the journey from that point on to now, and what you gleaned from it, and how it changed your life, and what worlds it brought you to, and everything we have to share with our audience. You're listening to Zeta Global Radio. We'll be back in a moment. World-renowned healers, authors, and shamans, Teresina and Martin Backens are back in Southwest Florida for their highly anticipated Sacral Spiral Retreat coming up on June 8th through 10th. If you are searching for a deeper meaning of who you are, what your purpose is, how you can fully ignite your creative expression in the world, then this is the gathering for you. With only a few spots left, join us on the tropical paradise of Pine Island for a weekend retreat that is designed to bring forward your greatest knowing of self. Register now at beaconsoflove.com. It's going to be a profound weekend you deserve to experience. Trice Massage Therapy and Skincare is Southwest Florida's premier holistic and wellness spa to relax and rejuvenate your well-being. Founded by Lucille Trice, this enlightened haven located in Cape Coral offers a variety of massage therapies including Swedish, deep tissue, and trigger point massage. Trice offers detoxifying body wraps and facials using natural organic ingredients to pamper your skin and restore balance and health. Visit their Trice Massage Therapy and Skincare Facebook page or call 239-672-0526 and book your experience today. Mention ZGR and receive a complimentary ionic foot detox experience. Welcome back to Zeta Global Radio. Lainie Sevante here with Heather Phillips from Muscle Tuners International. And if you want to know what Muscle Tuners International is, keep listening and go back to the first segment where you can really hear Heather's story of what led her to do what she does today. So welcome back, Heather. Let's share with our group who's listening in from all over the world, from the time you had the surgery and your recovery, now moving forward, how did this change your life? And was it for the better, or is there a blessing in disguise?
Oh, heavens, it was absolutely for the better. So from after there must be a better way, and I got a waitressing job the next summer, so this is 2 years after my surgery, and I was confronted with this, tired back and whatever, so peas on the couch, and my mother referred me to her chiropractor, and then he referred me to a chiropractor where I was going to school. And that particular chiropractor was studying naturopathy as well, and she was doing this stuff on my arm, holding my arm up and pushing down on it, and then doing something with my body and pushing my arm down on it again, and it would change. It's like, oh my goodness, what's she doing? So I got really fascinated. I am a kinesthetic person. If you haven't figured that out yet from all the physical activity I did as a kid and so on. So pushing down on a muscle and having it change was like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? So I said, how can I learn more about this? She had 2 medical nurses working for her at the time who taught a course called Touch for Health. And it was at that time when I was learning Touch for Health and learning muscle testing and learning the reflex activation points, and that, changed my life. And I was in the workshop. So at level 2, I learned something about how muscles work together and how they bully each other. And it was that segment of Touch for Health that I said, I got cured. I mean, if you believe in a cure, that was my cure. After the workshop and doing this bully exercise, is muscle, they call it reactive muscles. So after correcting the bully muscle and making sure all the muscles were playing well together, the pain went away.
Nice. Wow. And Touch for Health is the technique or the modality, right?
Touch for Health is considered a specialized kinesiology, and there's a lot of things that have sprung out of Touch for Health. And, Muscle Tuners International, the 2 of us, the co-founders, the 2 of us have been in this space for years, the total combined of 50-plus years. So we know our stuff, and my personal contribution is the business side, and Denise's contribution is that she's been teaching it and in it and does a clinic with it for 25, almost 25 years. So she's seen it, done it. I've taught it for many, many years, since the age of 22, and I'm over 50.
Is Muscle Tuners, tell people what Muscle Tuners is. Is it different from what you learned when you had your epiphany at 22 years old?
Okay, thank you for asking the question. I can get back on track. There was a direction here.
I think just for listeners that, knowing you had this sort of like aha moment, and between 22 to over 50, you've been in learning, teaching, growing, expanding, and now you're out there with Muscle Tuners teaching others your wisdom. So I just wanted to share with people, like, give us a little bit more insight coming forward on Muscle Tuners and what you've gleaned. Is it the same? Is it different from, back in the day when you were just being exposed to whatever modality you were working with?
Muscle Tuners International Incorporated was born out of this whole sense that people need to know this technology. People need to be able to use it in their house, on themselves. I used self-care technology that wasn't taught to me. I taught it to myself through the information I knew. So what I have done is put all of those techniques that I did my whole life on video so that everybody has access to them. 5 free tips, and then there's Energy Boost 10 that's a nominal fee. However, what I did for myself from the age of 20 to now is manage my energy, my physical health and well-being. What we've done is the epiphany that you're talking about is this has to get out to the world faster. It has to be in everybody's hands faster. It has to be now. It's been so impactful and powerful to my life. It's changed my life. I don't know where I would be right now if I didn't have these techniques at my disposal on a daily basis. For some years I didn't use them. For some days I didn't use them. But generally speaking, I have these at my fingertips. And I have people in my life who know this technology, and I seek them out because it works. It's all called specialized kinesiology. It's accessing your body's knowledge through muscle testing and a biofeedback loop. I often describe to my students about your house. And if your house was your body and all the lights were on, it'd be nice and bright. So if you start to turn the lights off in the house, what happens? Well, what happens if you start turning off the lights in your body, which are all the energy pathways? What happens if they start to get shut off? You don't have much energy left. You don't have a flow of energy. You don't necessarily think clearly. There's lots of stuff physically that happens, including stress. And there's lots of techniques that are taught in Muscle Tuners International as a muscle tuner specialist, you can learn all this stuff. And as a public, you can learn a lot of information for yourself by just applying some simple techniques on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and you'll be able to switch on the light of your body and feel much better. And I swear I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for these techniques, because they've helped me maintain my physical well-being. I can exercise with no pain. I can move.
Amazing.
I'm flexible. I almost did the splits on the weekend, Lainie.
I love that. You know, you touched on something that I want to mention. You said something that anybody can do, that everybody should do. And I know in your bio, you have in a few weeks a song that is releasing worldwide. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and share with the audience? Because you've had quite a journey, and it's taking you to so many realms. And, of course, this wisdom now you can impart to others. So let's talk about the song that is part of what Muscle Tuners International is going to be all about.
Well, it started off as a learning tool, because in the muscle tuner specialist program, they are learning 52 muscles. And I said, there's no way that I'm going to make these people learn these muscles without having a song to help them anchor their learning. So we set out creating a muscle motion song with 52 muscles. So people go through the range of motion and they start to feel things shift. And I love the fact that there's lots of people out there who need to know these muscles, like kinesiologists and nurses and massage therapists and so on, and the education, the anatomy classes in schools. There's another component to this. When you put a muscle through the range of motion, you are activating the biofeedback from your body to your brain. And when you do that, you start to engage the neurons and fire the neurons differently. And all of a sudden, your body starts to feel better. Some people can't get their body in the particular start positions of the range of motion that we go through. So I'm really, really excited to be announcing that our muscle motion song with 52 muscles, broken up into two pieces, plus our theme song, is being released on June 1st on all digital outlets, on Cinder Cone Records, on the label Cinder Cone Records. And we're just thrilled and appreciative of all the work that went into creating the song and the output and the delivery of the song. So thank you so much to Cinder Cone Records for making it happen for us, with us. And thank you to my lovely business partner, Denise, for helping put the words together, and also the writers, the producers of the song. So grateful. And This is going to have a huge impact on the world. Very, very, very important for people to move their bodies with intention.
So for the time we have left, which is just about a minute, do you want to just share what else you have coming up with your company, and then any last inspirational thoughts you might want to impart to the audience who may be going through something that may gleam traumatic and tragic, and you're an absolute model of like, wow, look where you went and it changed your life. So tell people about what you got going on, and then we'll leave them with a happy thought. We'll take a break.
Well, what we have going on is we've got 5 free tips on our website, www.muscletuners.fit. We also have Energy Boost 10 techniques that are being released on our website within the next couple of weeks. And we also have our Muscle Tuner Specialist program, which will allow people to call themselves a Muscle Tuner Specialist, and they can find that program on our website as well. And then our Muscle Motion songs and our theme song are being released June the 1st by Cinder Cone Records. We're just so excited that these things are coming up. So with regards to triumphs, the one thing that you absolutely have to keep asking yourself and telling yourself, there's got to be a better way. Keep yourself open and be honest with yourself. When you see a better way, even if you go poo, just go with it, because something has made it enter into your life. Try it. If it hurts or it don't get response, move on to the next thing. But always keep moving forward. Keep looking for the better thing. That's really important.
Wow. All right, I have chills. Thank you, Heather. Thanks for everything you do. Thank you to your partner, Denise, for all the work that you're doing. You're really making big changes in people's lives. So impactful. We appreciate you being here today.
I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you, Lainie.
Sure. Okay, when we come back, we're first going to take a break, listen to our wonderful sponsors who support ZGR and all the work we do to bring forward positive stories. We have a wonderful story coming out of Philadelphia with Jennifer Robinson. We're excited to share her story as well. You're listening to Zeta Global Radio. We'll be back in a moment. Hi, Lainie Sevante here, and I'd love for you to visit my new Facebook page for my private tarot and oracle session readings called Intuitive Wisdom. That's IN2UITIVE Wisdom. Conscious strategies for manifesting a more harmonious life. Don't we all want to have that? Let's see what's in the cards for you as we look at what needs to be cleared, expanded upon, and evolved. There's a lot to explore when we take a deeper look inside ourselves. Conscious businesses. Do you have a powerful prayer, meditation, affirmation, audiobook, or music that you're ready to bring to the global stage? Have you considered taking your enlightened gifts to the next level by recording them professionally so the world can hear your knowledge and wisdom? Enlightened Audio and Sound is your production source for taking your talents and making them and you known all over the planet. Record in a magical setting with the expertise of renowned music engineer, composer, and recording artist Howard Merlin Wulkan. Will not only assist you in developing a concept that can be recorded with top-level commercial quality, but will also assist you in bringing your media asset to market in a variety of mediums, including digitally to iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, and thousands of more outlets. To learn more, visit our Facebook page, Enlightened Audio and Sound, about bringing your business and career to new heights. Welcome back to Zeta Global Radio. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you, Heather Phillips, for sharing your profound journey. I hope that all of you who are listening can take some notes and really take stock in where you are in your own journey. If you've had a trauma, if you've had a tragedy, and where you are, and to know that there is hope on the other side and see where it might lead you. And now I get to introduce you to our second guest, who also has a profound story, Jennifer Lynn Robinson. She's an attorney. She is the CEO of Purposeful Networking, and she conducts keynotes, workshops, and seminars assisting companies, nonprofits, universities, and conferences to help ensure your networking is working for you. She is also the president of Fem City Philadelphia, yay Fem City, a women's business networking organization with 1,900 women. I'm also part of Fem City, so this is it's a very, very popular organization. Jennifer, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm a fan personally, and I'm excited to hear your story. I will talk about the fact that you've been in Forbes and Huffington Post and Chicago Tribune. You are a powerhouse. So today is so powerful that you are here to share with our audience what has happened in your life. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I have the privilege of knowing you off air, and I've got to hear your story sort of in a unique way, overlooking the beautiful poolside of Fort Lauderdale, over the ocean, and hearing your story and comparing some notes. And I said, oh my God, Jennifer has to be on our show. What an inspiration she would be to millions. So why don't we give people a little bit of a background of who you are? I mentioned you're an attorney and you've got this incredible networking organization and what you do. But let's talk about why you're here and what has occurred through your journey and your experience.
Yeah, so I guess, I'll start in 2006, 7-ish. I was a litigator for a big company. I had been in litigation, I think at that point, about 8 years, doing trials and hearings and depositions and that sort of thing. And I was newly engaged and then newly married. I was a newlywed. And then in 2008, specifically on May 15th, I was in downtown Philadelphia, and I was a pedestrian and got hit and pinned underneath a truck. And obviously that was a life-defining moment as far as everything, you can imagine in my life, professionally, personally, my family, my friends, my identity, the recovery, and I'm sure we'll get into some of that. But, that's essentially what happened.
Of course, I have chills hearing it again. And how does it feel for you in this moment that you just said all that, and you said it so, I won't say casually, but you just said it with just stating it energetically of like, yeah, this is what happened to me. But there was probably times in your life where it was probably hard to say that and to express that and more talk about it on a radio show. How does it feel like when you just said that right now?
It is still hard. I mean, I'm on a radio show, so you can't see me sitting here with tears in my eyes. I mean, clearly when I went to all the doctors and all the treatment, immediately following, it was, every doctor obviously needs to know again, well, what happened? And I need the details. And I know you've been through this 20 times, but we need you to go through it, 21st. And it was very, very challenging to try to talk through the details of the story. And even over the years, in the last couple of years, I've tried to branch out some of my speaking into more motivational speaking and talk about my story. The first time I did it, I mean, I literally broke down several times in front of an audience. And even after that, same thing, only not as bad. And the next time, not as bad. So, it definitely gets better. But I mean, to say that I'm sitting here, you can only hear me on the radio. It's still a struggle. It's very much a struggle because something like that does change your whole life. And I think, probably just the timing of this, I feel like I'm at a place of empowerment right now because, 1 week from today I celebrate the 10-year, what I call Life Day, my survival day of the accident. So that's a big, big monumental anniversary for me. So I'm in a really good place right now just thinking about celebrating that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, I really feel I feel what you're saying, and I thank you for sharing your story. Do you want to go back a little bit and talk about sort of maybe post-accident, where you were at, and maybe glean in the, for the audience over the last 10 years where you started to see some shifts or light at the end of the tunnels, or wow, this is encouraging me to do this, or something that you feel came out of this that is triumphant?
Yeah, so I think, initially, I mean, besides all the serious physical injuries you can imagine would result from that, I had a traumatic brain injury and also serious mental problems related to post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, problems crossing streets. So initially, when something like that happens to you, there's a sense of euphoria that you're blessed, because every day you turn on the news and there are pedestrians that are hit by cars and trucks and die right there at the scene. So initially, in the hospital, in the ICU, you think, my gosh, I'm special. I survived when other people don't. There's a reason for that. And then in the days that follow, the days and months that follow, for me, I was in a very dark place. I don't want to mislead anybody to think that, they hear me now and it's like rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah.
And you go through all of it. Why did this happen to me? Like everybody else, including my husband, are moving on with their daily routine and their life. And I lost everything I had. I lost who I was. I lost my ability to go to court and be a lawyer anymore. I lost my routine. I lost a lot of my friends because I couldn't function. And some people can deal with that and other people can't. I was a newlywed. I wasn't the same person my husband married. We had a lot of problems. So, I mean, there's so many things that happen when you go through something like this. And I would say, probably it took several years before I saw a turning point. I mean, several years of rehab and surgery and therapy and mental, therapy and psychologists, sleep specialists, anything you can think of. A lot of it.
Well, wow. I'm really taking in what you just said because it sounds, and I think I told you this that day at the pool when I went through my tragedy, which was losing my former partner to suicide. This radio show was my saving grace in terms of bringing, I couldn't sleep from it. I brought on sleep experts. I brought on a widow, someone who deals with what it's like to be a widow. I dealt with psychologists. I mean, pretty much my journey has been played out on Zeta Global Radio because those are the people who came on the show, not only to help me, but obviously it hit a chord with many. So what you're sharing, I know is going to be hitting a chord with others as well, I'm sure there's people out there who get it. In fact, even Heather, who had just explained that there was a dark period of this. So that goes without saying, and one can't even possibly imagine what it's like to be in your shoes then and now, and how the last 10 years have impacted you. So I'm so glad that we're having this interview around how timely, right? So if we flash forward a little bit past that time, and I can't even say past because obviously you're never the same. It's that new normal we talk about, and that I know very, very well as well. So how do you feel in terms of at what point did it start to show like I'm going to make it, or I'm starting to find who I am again, or where in the journey did it take you?
Yeah, I mean, I think initially there was a lot of problems I was having related to my identity as a person because, I was in therapy, and I just remember this one day my psychologist, I had been considering leaving my job. Let me backtrack. After the accident, I obviously missed about 6 months from work. I fought all my doctors to go back to my job part-time against everybody's recommendations. I thought if I got back in some kind of normal routine, it would help me. It would help me mentally, and it would help me, otherwise. And I couldn't go back to court because of the brain injury, so I was essentially placed into a desk job when I'm not a desk job person. So I became actually more depressed. So a lot of my therapy sessions at that time kind of centered around, should I take a leap and just leave because this clearly isn't working out for a number of reasons. And I remember one day when my psychologist said, well, who are you if you're not a lawyer? I always hear you say, I'm an attorney. My name is Jennifer Robinson. I'm an attorney. I'm a litigator. Who are you if you're not an attorney? And that was, really tough to take in because I think for a lot of people, including myself, you do define yourself a lot by your profession. And if I couldn't do what I was doing before, I got in a place where I really didn't know who I was or like what the next step was,
Sure.
But I mean, fast forward, I think, after you've gone through a lot of this, as I'm sure you start to see some positive, as hard as that is. There really was a lot of positive that came out of this whole journey and experience. And for me, I started to realize that although I was very good at what I was doing at the time this accident happened professionally, I was really in a place of like status quo and not challenging myself and not really real happiness or making connections or making a difference. I would have just gone along that path because that's what I was, in my mind, supposed to do. I think things would have continued like that for a very long time had I not had this, obviously monumental event that happened. So it really made me reassess like how I want to spend my time, what I want to do as a person, what I want to feel like at the end of the day. At the end of the day, did it matter to me that I was like saving an insurance company money? Was that really giving me, value at the end of the day as a person? It definitely wasn't, So, I mean, It made me rethink a lot of things on a positive level that I hadn't really considered before that.
Beautiful. And just in the last minute that we have here, and it's probably a broader subject, but being that we are a very spiritually conscious radio show, and we do talk about sort of that inner divine or, calling or spirit or whatever it is, and it doesn't mean that everybody has to be that way, but did you, prior to this, have that belief system in saying, whether it's religion or a higher power or spirituality, that there is more, there's somebody watching over you, there's angels, there's guides, or where are you at, or did this change that for you?
I really wasn't in that place, and I think it hasn't really changed that for me, but I do really, I'm one of those people that really believes everything happens for a reason. Just a very quick example before we go to break. When I graduated law school, it was my dream to be a district attorney, and it did not work out. My interview was a disaster. And I ended up, in an in-house office where I met my husband. And I always think about that if my career path had gone the way I had hoped it would, I would have never met him. So, I mean, I'm a big believer in you're where you're supposed to be at the time for a specific reason.
Perfect. Well, that's one of the best things, law of attraction, but it's also everything is in, I always say myself, everything is in divine order, and sometimes you just don't know when we're going through something what's on the flip side. So that is part of the inspiration today, is to trust that everything's in alignment, whether we like it or not, or feel that way. It's all coming out to show itself at some point. So thank you for sharing that. We will take a break. You're listening to Zeta Global Radio. We're so glad you're here. We'll be back in a moment.
Spiritual Communities Network, where we honor the uniqueness in our oneness. Visit our website to meet our vast spiritual community of healers, therapists, conscious events, and activities. Visit and check out our directory, upcoming retreats, workshops, products, free videos, and much more. Many services are available globally by phone, Skype, and other sources of media. You'll also find more information on how you can be a member to promote the work you're doing in the world. Visit us now at spiritualcommunitiesnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Zeta Global Radio. We are here with Jennifer Lynn Robinson, and as you just heard in the prior segment, she was sharing her story of nearly 10 years ago, just about to the date. Here we are 2 days before, when this is airing, of her accident. And so now we're flashing forward, and at least a little bit later, and let's talk about where you are now, or what was a changing point in terms of your career when you decided that you were ready to kind of come back into the arena of your work and what you're going to do next. So let's talk about that, and then here we go.
Yeah, so I think around, late 2011, early 2012, I had left my job by that point, the part-time job that I had gone back to, which was full-time before the accident. And I decided to start a business, initially doing consulting with the hope that I would transform it into more of a speaking business. But you have to remember, even a few years out at that time, I was in no position to do the kind of speaking that I do now, and actually was being told by all my rehab specialists to rethink a career that would involve public speaking, that wasn't necessarily going to be something that was possible for me. And so I'm sure, like a lot of us, it's that whole don't tell me no. This is what I enjoy, and this is what I'm going to make happen. So I started my business, and really at the time, I was nothing like I am today. I was very withdrawn. I didn't see a lot of people. I didn't talk to a lot of people. I didn't go to a lot of places. But, I'm smart enough to recognize, even though I had no experience running a business, that you couldn't sit in your house and stare at the walls and make it successful. So I just really started getting out and, promoting myself and interacting with people and meeting new people. And to be honest, that was a big part of the healing process for me, is that power of human connection, seeing the value of what that did for me, how it helped grow my business, and ultimately really transform my business into one all about networking, because I really personally have seen the value on so many levels.
Wow. And did it happen immediately for you? Did it take time to develop?
Yeah, it did not happen immediately, but I would say, we mentioned at the beginning, FemCity, which is a national women's business organization we're both involved in. I joined in Philadelphia, and that was such a resource for me, professionally and personally, because I was entering this journey. All my contacts were in the legal community. I really had no network outside of the lawyers I knew, and a lot of people were really questioning what I was doing walking away. What do you mean you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to change path, and, you went to law school and you have all this debt, and what are you doing? And, so it was nice to find this community of women that was, didn't really know me before that and was just supportive about what I was doing. And all my first clients, and all my first referrals came out of that organization, and obviously a lot of them still continue, to come out of that organization. So for me, the timing of the starting the business and joining FemFessionals, or what used to be called FemFessionals, which is now FemCity, was really instrumental in the success of my business. But no, of course it didn't happen overnight. I don't think anything does. I started getting some regular consulting, but like I said, I really wanted to transform it into a speaking business. And gradually, I started doing free speaking and then paid speaking. And I remember initially being very down on myself, and I still get down on myself. I think I'm a good speaker, but I think that in my mind, there are still moments where I know things are flowing a lot better than other days, and I always come to a dark place and attribute that to my brain injury and everything that I've been through. Even though people will say, well, as a speaker, even if nothing had happened to you, you have some days that just flow better than others. But, to me, it's very easy to go back to that place and be like, this isn't working for me, because I'm never going to be the same. I'm never going to think on my feet the way I did. I'm never going to remember everything I have to say. I'm never going to be who I was. So it's definitely a daily struggle to combat that self-talk and just realize how far I've come. You know what I mean? Just realize how far you've come.
Well, just in the mere fact that I just want to acknowledge that your rehab specialist said they don't want you to, or they asked you to rethink, and in that moment you had a choice point. And so you already, I just want to acknowledge you for at that moment choosing in for what you feel, I'm going to say here, that your soul knew was your divine destiny. So I'm going to just take that moment right there. And I'm just curious also, as I take in that moment, was it because of the brain injury, or what was the motivation for asking you to rethink?
It was definitely because of the brain injury and also a lot of other cognitive problems I was having. So I was having word finding problems. I was having problems remembering my cases and a lot of things I was trying to do at rehab, basic things, a few paragraphs they would give me and then ask me questions and I wouldn't remember it. Or they would show you a picture, the kind you would see in kindergarten with like different scenes going on in a neighborhood, and then pull it away and ask you what you remembered from the picture. And maybe there were 20 things to remember and I'd remember 6. So, it was very frustrating. I was a very strong student growing up, and I did very well on my verbal SAT. So being faced in rehab with things like what's the opposite of this word or what's a synonym for this word, and knowing that I should know the answer to those things and not being able to come up with them was very, very tough. So those kinds of things, I think, made them think that it would be, very much a struggle for me to get to the place I'm at now.
Ooh. Wow. Let me ask you this, because now you are president of the organization where you got your initial footing. How long from when you joined this group that you had just heard about, like starting brand new, nobody knew you, and then rising to the top of thousands of women and being the president? What was that journey like, and how long did it take?
Yeah, so that's, it's not like I started thinking I would one day head the organization. I started and I got more and more active, developed more and more fantastic relationships. All my closest friends that are in the area I live in now are all out of my Fem City organization. We're like family, which has been so amazing for me in my journey and just my development as a person. So I joined, I think it was like the end of 2011, beginning of 2012, and I was a member until, I'm still a member, but I was a regular member until, I want to say around 2015 or so, when I was applied for the board, and I was on the board for maybe about a year and a half. And then our president in Philadelphia, Cheyenne Dominguez, had to move with her family to the Atlanta area due to her husband's job transfer. And ultimately they looked for another president, and here I am. So in the fall, it'll be about 2 years that I've been running this. And it's been an amazing process.
That's amazing. So where do you see yourself? Do you take things day by day, or do you see yourself like in the next 3 to 5 years you're going to set your sights on something else? Or what does it feel like for you in terms of what would be another triumph for you that you would love to accomplish?
One is to do a TEDx talk. And so I applied last year, and I've been applying this year, and so far have not made it. But I think it's one of those things where I know I will. It's just a matter of when and where. I can visualize it. I can see myself on the stage. I can see the impact that my story would have on a lot of people and what they've gone through on their own lives. So for me, the TEDx talk is definitely something that's on the radar for the next couple of years. And then locally, we have a 10-mile run here in Philadelphia called the Broad Street Run, which goes up and down the main street in Philadelphia called Broad Street. And for some reason, even though I'm not a runner at all, I feel a need to complete it and get to the finish line. I feel like that's a challenge that I want to do for myself. So I've actually put off a 4th Achilles surgery from the accident that I'm having this summer, and I'm hoping after I rehab from that I can train and complete the Broad Street.
Wow. Way to go. And I'm just taking it in. It's like even people who have not been in an accident such as yours, that would seem daunting. So to me, that's just such another example of the caliber of human being you are, Jennifer.
You can never just like rest on your laurels. It really doesn't matter what's going on. I feel like people just kind of lose any sense of happiness or challenge. Like there always has to be a next thing. I'm always thinking about the next thing,
Well, in that case, let's talk about, just in the last few minutes, purposeful networking, because you have purposefulnetworking.com I want to bring everyone's attention to. And also, when you said that, I know that you've been featured in many, many magazines, as I said previously, Forbes, Huffington Post, Chicago Tribune, Philadelphia Magazine. What are those articles on? Are they on networking and what you do now? Or tell me a little bit about that, and let our listeners know about purposeful networking.
They are about that. So as I said, I've moved the business from one of consulting to speaking. So I do the keynotes and workshops. I work with a lot of companies and law firms and nonprofits. And, I teach people how to give a killer elevator pitch, how to navigate networking events, how to follow up from meeting people and build relationships, how to network and position themselves within their company if they're not an entrepreneur and they're trying to make lateral moves. So a lot of things along those lines. In the last couple of years, I've noticed I've gravitated a lot towards doing things around women's leadership and networking and the differences between that for women and men, because unfortunately women inherently are a lot less successful at networking than men. So I do talk to a lot of women now about how to change that paradigm and what women should do to be more successful with their networking efforts, to have a better ROI on that and, feel like they're advancing themselves personally. So yeah, the articles have all been about that. I have had a few articles that have concentrated on my accident and my journey, but mainly a lot of my publications have been around kind of business networking topics.
Wonderful. And did that feels good for you, I would think, because there's a part of you that, or let me ask, is there a part of you that feels like you would put that to rest a little bit and just be present? Or do you feel like that's an important piece to always keep current in who you are now?
I think, I have, like I said, I think I said a little earlier, I've seen such a value in what networking has done for me. I mean, it's been healing, It's been cathartic, it's been inspirational. I love hearing people's stories. I love being challenged. I love meeting new people. So, I see them both as part and parcel of each other. I don't see how I could be a successful president of this women's organization without being an active networker. It's a bonus that I have the business that centers around it, but I think, I would never just be president and say that's enough.
Is there a part that you put that to rest, like that's not part of the story, or like when you're writing an article, more about, is that something you put to rest and stay current, like this is who I am now? Or do you feel like that part of you will always be a part of who you are in discussing your current, talk, or your current, I know you said that about TED Talks, but I'm just wondering in articles. I was just bringing it relevance to the accident.
Yeah, I don't know that I brought it up in many articles, but I mean, I definitely brought it up in some of my talks, even when they are centered more on the networking. And it depends on the circumstances. Like, I remember I gave this talk to an organization here locally that takes kids that have, for one reason or another, failed to graduate high school and puts them through a gap year program where they hope to teach them skills to get them either working or into college. And I remember I had come there trying to teach them tips to interview and network and do their applications and that kind of thing. And then when I started hearing some of the backstories, I actually just kind of threw away my speech and told them my personal story instead, because I thought it was right at the time. Do you know what I mean? Because they had been through so much. And I just remember how much positivity came back on me from that, and how people were so inspired by, oh, that's the place you were in and you got here. I mean, I can get there too, because I would never think you had that kind of story. You just look like you're a successful businesswoman, So, I mean, no, it's always going to be part of the story. I'm not the same person I was before the accident. And like I said, a lot of, in both ways, positive and negative. But I mean, I like the person I am today better than who I was before the accident. I have more confidence. I'm more sure of myself. I listen less to the negativity. I care about it less. And, if I can help people, get to that same place and share part of my story, I will definitely continue to do that.
Oh, gosh. Well, you know how to close a show, girl. Thank you so much. That was absolutely perfect. Thank you for being here. And it just dawned on me that our first guest, Heather Phillips, is also part of Fem City. So here we have a trifecta today representing this wonderful networking group. And Jennifer, thank you for being just so candid, transparent, authentic, the real you. And I'm really touched. I'm sure our listeners are. If people do want to get hold of you after this wonderful interview airs, what's the best way of them reaching you?
The best way is at jennifer@purposefulnetworking.com. That is my business account, and that's the one I regularly check every day. So whether you're contacting me for personal or business, that's the best way to reach me.
Wonderful. All right. Terrific. Thank you so much. We will be having this show. Yeah, we'll be airing this show, of course, on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe there. Then you will never miss a show when it airs at Zeta Continuum. We are also all over iTunes and, of course, our website at zetaglobalradio.com. Please share this far and wide. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed being here together. Have a great, blessed week. We'll see you on the airwaves in 1 week's time. Thank you.